Sections of the road were also intact in France, but once a modern pilgrim crossed the Pyrenees into Spain, there it was, a slightly wrinkled beeline of 800 authentic kilometers due west, following the setting sun by day and the streak of the Milky Way by night, over the craggy hills of the Spanish Basque territory, into the wine valleys of Rioja, across the plains of Castile, through the wheat fields of Leon, over the alpine mountains of Galicia, and finally into the comfort of the valley of Santiago. Depending on where I started, the walk could take 2 months, maybe more. Since pilgrims are supposed to arrive in town just before James's feast day on July 25th, the idea I had in mind could not have been more simple and appealing. I would fly to Europe and spend the belly of the summer walking to the end of the world. Despite my many obvious disqualifications for being a pilgrim, I had long had an interest in the tradition of walking the road. After all, one could dress it up as with all kinds of rationales and ritual, but stripped down, a pilgrim was a guy out for some cosmically serious fresh air. So in the beginning, it was the very simplicity of the idea of pilgrimage as a long walk that attracted me. Little did I know. The medieval argument for pilgrimage held that the hectic routine of daily life, with its business obligations, social entanglements, and petty quarrels, was simply too confusing a pace for sustained thought. The idea was to slacken that pace to the natural rhythm of walking. The pilgrim would be exiled from numbing familiarity and plunged into continual change. The splendid anarchy of the walk was said to create a sense of being erased, a dusting of the tabula rasa, so that the pilgrim could consider a variety of incoming ideas with a clean slate. If escaping life's hectic repetition made sense in the Middle Ages, when time was measured by the passing of day and night, then it seemed to me reasonable to reconsider this old remedy now that we schedule our lives by the flash of blinking diodes. This idea was a lot more than a Saturday hike or weekend outing. A pilgrimage would mean subletting my New York apartment, quitting my job, and resigning my generous health plan. I would live on foot, out of a backpack, among old pueblos, some unwired for electricity, others abandoned centuries ago to become stone ghost towns. My long-set routines would be shattered, and my daily responsibilities would evaporate. I'd walk out of the pop culture waters in which I had spent a lifetime treading and onto a strange, dry land. I'd be far away from the AM hits that leak from cars and malls and dorms. I'd be at a blissful remove from CNN headlines and last night's news. I wouldn't have an opinion on whether the wife was justified in shooting her husband, or whether the cop thought the ghetto kid was reaching for a knife, or whether the woman had consented before the rape, or whether the nanny had accidentally dropped the baby from the window, because I wouldn't know a single fact. My mind and attention would be cleansed of all that, and I could discover what topics they turned to when so generously unoccupied. A long walk, a season of walking. As it happened, I had just reached the Dantean age of 35. What better way to serve out my coming midlife crisis than on a pilgrimage? I quickly found, though, that one cannot discharge a word like pilgrimage into everyday conversation and long remain innocent of the connotations that drag in its wake. I had spent the last decade working as a magazine writer and then as an editor at Harper's Magazine. When I began to speak of my idea to associates throughout the media, I sometimes encountered polite interest. More often I'd hear a bad joke. Yo, Jack Hitt. A famous New York agent told me that if I found God, to tell him he owed her a phone call. Those who were interested enough to keep talking would sometimes pinch their eyes as if to get a better view. Their lips crinkled in apprehension. Their fear, of course, was that I might return from Spain with an improved posture, a damp smile, and a lilac in my hand. As a Western practice, pilgrimage is not merely out of fashion, it's dead. It last flourished in the days of Richard the Lionhearted, and it was one of the first practices Martin Luther felt comfortable denouncing without so much as a hedge. All pilgrimages should be abolished, were his exact words. As something to do, the road to Santiago has been in a serious state of decline, technically speaking, since 1200. The problem with pilgrimage is that, like so much of the vocabulary of religion, it is part of an exhaustive